Margaret Kuhlman of Soul Astrology. A Gemini new moon, light, interesting, with a tendency to be distracted, rather too many thoughts, maybe beginning too many sentences, so many options, and at this time the options are confusing. Mercury, who rules Gemini, has just moved into Cancer, which brings an emotional flavour to all the thinking and communicating. It sextiles Uranus, newly into Taurus, so these thoughts are likely to be about all the different possibilities on the practical level, and how we actually feel about that, the letting go, what I just threw away, why did I do that? And yet more ideas, how differently it could be or could have been. We must be careful not to hold too far back into the past, worrying about what we did. It becomes extremely important when faced with old emotional reactions or reactions to old events that we remain in the present, relate to the world as it is. There is no could have been. There is no if only. They are fantasies. That painfulness of recognizing maybe the effects we had is shown up by this square from Mercury to Chiron. And Chiron is in cahoots with Venus. Although Venus has not yet moved into Leo, she is only fractionally away from it, but still carrying the flavour of the nurturing, caring side of Cancer, still loving from that motherly position of empathising with those in trouble, and yet at loggerheads with Uranus. All this change and all this freedom, what is that doing to my loved ones? Whereas if we remain in the present and look at what is, without blaming ourselves or anyone else, without blame, and therefore without feeling guilty, just looking at how it is, and using this lovely, sensitive, empathic quality to make the moves that free us, to make the moves that free others, so that we all feel valuable in our own space, so that we don't encroach on each other or try to manipulate each other. There is in this pattern such understanding of the need for freedom of expression, freedom for each individual to be the way they really are. And as Saturn is retrograding in Capricorn, it comes closer to that trine to Uranus, helping us to make these moves of freeing, of letting go, effective and careful. I like the word careful, rather than caring, which seems to be taking on the feeling of another. Careful is a pragmatic attention to what works for everyone, so that we can build in space for each other. So here we have all these possibilities presenting themselves, especially through the first 2 weeks of this lunar month. As Venus goes into Leo and across the north node of the moon, opposing Mars, who's on the south node, potential for a lot of enjoyable relating, as long as we allow each other this space. That tug of war between the masculine and feminine within us all, as Mercury makes his way through Cancer. Enjoyable, but with emotional past patterns rising every now and then. And Mars continuing to insist on that space for energetic expression. What we need to watch out for is our reactions. So when we see them, when we feel a reaction rising, especially one of those reactions which comes up like a volcano exploding, we need to hold our awareness, seeing what it is we're doing or about to do, recognizing that there are many options in any moment of how to be, and that true mastery or genius is in choice. Let us be in a position where we can choose what we do, how we behave, that we can choose which attitude to rest our mind on, always asking for support from the universe. Help me to do the right thing here, right in inverted commas. Help me to do the thing which is valuable to everyone in this situation. As we ask, we're calling on the Jupiter. We're opening ourselves to possibilities beyond what we know. And with Jupiter still trining Neptune, we get the angelic support we really need, the spiritual input from our own spiritual connection. Whether we know of that or feel it or not, it's there. So as long as we are open to being supported by the universe, we will be supported. At the full moon, we find the moon on Saturn opposite the sun in Cancer. This position of Saturn all month is a quincunx to the North Node, showing that with that carefulness, we can line up with the joy of humanity, with the pleasure of being together, with the fullness of the heart. But we need to take care. And the moon at the full moon joins in with that. The instinct will be carefulness. As there is still this trine to Uranus, we can still stand back from the way things are and see what it is that's happening. This quality is necessary because if one lines up too strongly in reaction with Saturn, we can become fearful, trying hard to cling on to old ways. And here comes Mercury, very shortly after that full moon, going into Leo itself to oppose the Mars, each one expressing their own position, hopeful that the changes that go on in the world are not going to affect us. Not me. And here we have a lovely quincunx from the Venus to Neptune, absolutely exact. So the flavour of the second half of this lunar month is being ourselves in service to others, being in touch with our own spirit. In this second half of the lunar month, the dilemma is not so much between freedom versus the pain it causes. It's more about recognizing the pain change can cause versus the circumstances that are actually happening. Venus lines up perfectly with a quincunx to Neptune, still being trined by Jupiter. With Venus being in Leo and at right angles, at square to Jupiter, we will need to take care not to allow our desires for positivity to override what we understand of what's happening. We need to be able to see both sides. There is always both sides, probably many sides, and in Gemini that's the way to look at life, to see if there is another way of seeing things than the one that springs to mind. The views that spring to mind are the old ones we're used to, so they probably aren't going to fit. And if we recognize the useless quality of fear and reject that way, there are still more possibilities. This whole time that we are in is so changeable, so unpredictable. The best way forward is to be in the moment, which Gemini is very good at, just stepping 1 foot at a time and seeing what's there, not leaning one's weight totally on any particular idea or outcome, but just checking them all through, all the options, keep checking them, keep seeing how they are evolving. If you have to make a decision, then ask for spiritual guidance from inside. And if you can postpone your decisions, keeping your options all open, the solution to any situation you find yourself in could be completely different from anything you've thought of so far. This time is full of surprises. If you are watching this video without being on my website, I'd like to direct you to the letter that I write. They cover the same ground, but from slightly different perspectives, and you can always receive the letter automatically if you give me your email address, which I only ever use for that purpose. So wishing you well, good contact with your inner guidance, and have fun. The eye or worldly storm is a place of deep inner reflection. There you are joined by every being, resting in sweet joy and peace. The world may be stormy all around you, but the space deep inside contains it all, in perfect love and compassion. You are loved, always.